The jade ethereal flute touched her crimson lips, her slender fingers drifting over its holes. The melody swelled, echoing louder through the mountains, lingering on and on. A boundless melancholy stirred a chorus from heaven and earth, drowning the feng shui's raging roar. Amid the mournful tune filling the sky, Yue Sha Chan became a phantom, sweeping past She Mu. She slipped the half-scroll Luo Shao Chan into her sleeve, then turned and drifted into the distance. Barefoot, she stepped across the waves, and the wind carried her song.
Locked hearts as one, a borrowed dream of springtime splendor. Beneath the willows, a pair, seeing off the short pavilion that stretched long. From this moment the moon clears, and we part ways to different horizons. As you wish, do not dwell, forever forget.
She Mu strained his eyes, but her slender figure had already walked the waves and vanished, her lovely trace lost beyond sight. Only the feng shui flowed on, silent and eternal eastward. His hand clutched his chest, something felt ready to crack, his breath growing ragged. A fragrant breeze swept past, and a jade fingertip touched his forehead. She Mu drew a deep breath. The suffocating feeling slowly eased, his breathing steadying. He sagged against the railing, gasping, his body soaked as if pulled from water, sweat beading on his forehead. She Qing, Chu stood quietly beside him, staring seriously into his eyes.
Channer cast no spell. It was merely a natural outpouring. Yet your vitality chi fell into chaos. I know you can break illusions and clear the heart. But her sorrow was utterly genuine, without falseness. Your heart holds feeling. How can you resist?
She Mu gasped. She Qing. Chu pressed an index finger to his lips.
But come back with me to train. You're too weak.
Mu Jian, Li walked along the main avenue of the imperial capital. Her destination was a grand residence. At the gate, 2 guards brightened with clear admiration.
So it's Miss Mu. Please, come in quickly.
Mu Jian, Li gave them a slight nod and walked inside unhurried. The courtyard was already packed, filled with people wearing various sect garb. In the center rested several stretchers draped in white cloth. Someone shouted,
That demoness of Starlight Moon Sect acts without a shred of restraint, killing disciples of our 8 sects in broad daylight. Even Marshal Uncle Dongfeng fell to her shameless ambush. This debt must be settled.
Another voice, dripping with sarcasm, cut in.
This is Jing City. Imperial court law does not shield trespassers who come with murder in their hearts. They died for nothing.
Someone else fumed.
Is 7 Mystique Valley trying to wash its hands of this? Don't forget your precious 7 profound colorful garment is being worn as playthings by their whores.
A retort came.
Starlight Moon Sect isn't using those garments anymore. I've heard Ecstasy Sect has started using them. What's more important, stopping Ecstasy Sect's demonic acts or spilling blood in a war with She Qingchu?
The noise died down sharply as Mu Jian, Li stepped into the courtyard. Everyone fixed complex looks on her, admiration, jealousy, respect, all mingled together. Mu Jian, Li stood silently beside the white cloth for a long while, then bowed toward the seniors seated in the main positions.
Jianli greets Valley Master Mo, Master Yanzhong, Marshal Uncle Miao.
The person in the chief seat was none other than Valley Master Mo Shuexin of 7 Mystique Valley, one of the 8 great righteous sects, a lady of elegant bearing. Beside her sat Master Yanzhong of Wuju Temple, titled Thousand, armed Manjusri, also of the 8 great righteous sects. Clearly, to contend with She Qingchu, people of this caliber had to step forward. If they truly chose to clash with Starlight Moon Sect, a fight at this level would spark an all-out war between righteous and demonic paths. Mu Jian, Li's expression stayed still, but inwardly she recalled that fleeting moment she had brushed past Yue Sha-chan earlier. The young mistress of Starlight Moon Sect possessed astonishing genius, reaching Huayun transformation nurture, at 13 should have shaken the world. Yet these proud righteous disciples here knew nothing of it. Worse, they lacked any self-cultivation, bickering with selfish schemes and hidden agendas. It was said that Nisha's cultivation method was unique, though her realm was unclear. She rivaled Dongshu Void Comprehension. If Yue Sha-chan one day also broke through the celestial limit, Starlight Moon Sect would boast 3 Dongshu Void Comprehension in a single generation. What would become of the world then? The decline of the Tao, the rise of demons, nothing could be more dire. What made Mu Jian, Li shake her head inwardly, was that the men's stares weren't merely sizing her up. They were conducting a far cruder comparison. Behind Valley Master Mo Shuexin stood a female disciple of similar age to Mu Jian. Li, her features were stunning, her expression cold and aloof. A faint, distant smile played at the corner of her lips, keeping others at a distance. Her cultivation method likely leaned toward ice. A subtle chill radiated off her, making her appear untouchably gorgeous. Many men whispered among themselves. Even Xinye Zhang Miao Wei, near the main seat, couldn't help flicking glances between Mu Jian, Li, and that female disciple, comparing them in his mind. Both wore white. But if Mu Jian, Li was a sword, that girl was a block of ice. The difference lay in the clothing. The girl's white robe was woven with cloud-patterned brocade, perfectly enhancing her beauty and aura. Mu Jian Li's was plain, even patched, coarse cloth. Because of this, if one ignored strength and judged only by looks, Mu Jianli truly paled in comparison. But Mu Jian, Li's gaze did not rest on her. Though she felt the countless eyes, her expression never wavered.
Jianli has only just arrived and doesn't know the details. How exactly did this happen? Why would Starlight Moon Sect resort to such strange tactics all of a sudden?
Miao Yue spoke sternly.
Starlight Moon Sect has produced a demonic figure named Shay Mu said to be Shay Qing, Chu's younger brother. No one knows where Shay Qing Chu got a brother. The clothing incident was his scheme.
Mu Jianli's mind flashed to the man who had stood beside Yue Xiaochan earlier, a strange man utterly devoid of cultivation, yet one who had inexplicably stirred her sword heart with a surge of battle intent. Miao Yue handed over another booklet.
Not just that. Look at this deviant's work full of filth, corrupting morals and poisoning the hearts of the world. In my view, he's more dangerous than the blood-hand demon queen herself.
Mu Jianli flipped through a few pages. When she came to the explicit bedroom scenes between the swordsman and Qianqian, even her unshakable sword heart jolted in shock. Nobody in the world had ever laid eyes on such material before. The impact was beyond anything she could have imagined. Just then, the cold and elegant beauty behind Mo Shuexin spoke up.
A deviant like this, who besmirches women's honor and delights in their degradation, is guilty of unforgivable crimes.
A chorus of indignant voices rose at once.
Miss Chen Yao is right. This kind of monster should be destroyed by every righteous person.
Having finished reading the indecent passage, Mu Jianli found herself silently disagreeing. From the text, this so-called deviant had shown no intent to ruin women's reputations or treat them as less than human. On the contrary, he seemed to harbor genuine sympathy for those who had fallen into lives of pleasure. The swordsman's inner struggle. Didn't that itself reflect on how society overvalued reputation and chastity?
She looked up at Chen Yao and couldn't help asking.
And this fellow apprentice is?
Mo Shuexin smiled warmly.
Jianli, don't flatter her too much. Chen Yao is an inner disciple of my 7 Mystique Valley. The only reason she's here is that her family lives in Jing City. She dropped by while home visiting. By all rights, she should be calling you senior apprentice sister.
So she wore white robes instead of the 7 profound colorful garment. Mu Jianli realized. That told her everything. Someone without core status had no standing to lead such a discussion. Stirring up emotions was likely just a bid for the Valley Master's attention, an attempt to climb the ranks, nothing more. Mu Jianli sighed softly. This was what the righteous path had become. Over 1,000 years, it had swollen with vanity and superficiality. What the martial path should truly pursue had long been forgotten.
Master Yuanzhang, who had remained silent until now, smiled.
Nephew disciple Jianli, what are your thoughts? Feel free to speak. After all, this is the Wenjian Zong's domain here.
The entire residence belonged to the Wenjian Zong. The man in charge was an uncle, Master Shi, one of the sect's external affairs stewards. He wasn't strong in martial ability. His role was to maintain contacts in Jing City, and it was he who had called this gathering of various sects. Mu Jianli offered a respectful nod.
Jianli believes the Starlight Moon Sect's recent killings fall within the bounds of the law, so pinning blame on them won't be easy. The real issue lies with those costumes. The Starlight Moon Sect already pulled them from circulation, so the Ecstasy Sect should be our target.
Master Yuanzhang sank into a thoughtful silence. Miao Ye let out a cold laugh.
Within the bounds of the law. Nephew disciple Mu, are you an officer of the 6 Fan Gate now?
If our righteous path throws its weight around without restraint, what separates us from demonic cultivators?
Mu Jianli's voice stayed calm.
When reason stands straight, the spirit stands upright. When the spirit stands upright, the sword is resolute. Jianli will not betray the sword in her heart.
Miao Yue opened his mouth to fire back, but Mo Shuexin raised a hand, cutting him off. She turned to the side.
Does junior brother, Shi, share this view?
Uncle, Master Shi, who had remained quiet up to that point, glanced at Mu Jianli. Of course, he'd back his own sex pillar. As an external affairs steward, he'd already figured out which move served them best.
Xia agrees with our niece apprentice. In full.
Mo Shuexin nodded, a faint smile on her lips.
Then it is settled. At the hour of Shen, we move against the pleasure-seeking pavilion.
She made the call without a flicker of hesitation. Clearly, this had been her plan from the start. With the Valley Master herself giving the word, the matter was final. Miao Yue, seeing the tide turn against him, spun on his heel and stormed off, sleeves snapping like whips behind him. As the gathering broke apart, Chen Yao passed by Mu Jianli. Her phoenix eyes, cool and unreadable, lingered on her for a long-waited moment. Mu Jianli paid it no attention. She walked out of the hall at a measured pace, following Uncle Master Shi toward her temporary lodgings. On the way, Uncle Master Shi chuckled.
I always figured you cared for nothing beyond the sword. But what you did back there, you understand strategy as well.
Mu Jianli paused, puzzled.
What do you mean, Uncle Master?
Stroking his beard, Uncle Master Shi said.
If Xi Qingqiu had gone all out, we'd have seen the moon sink, the stars fall, the earth split, and the heavens churn. Mo Shuexin couldn't have shielded everyone. Heavy casualties among the other sects, how would we have answered for that? But the ecstasy sect has no Xi Qingqiu. The real choice was obvious from the beginning. Mo Shuexin never intended to lock horns with the Starlight Moon sect. You handed her a perfectly justified reason on a silver platter. She couldn't be happier.
Mu Jianli went quiet. Uncle Master She kept going.
Xi Qingqiu's deterrence is a given. But that is not what impresses me most. What I find even more remarkable is that deviant from the Starlight Moon sect, Shi Mu.
Mu Jianli lifted her gaze.
What do you mean?
If I've pieced it together right, the Starlight Moon sect yanking those costumes off the market was also that deviant's doing. He has handed us a flawless excuse to turn on the ecstasy sect, and we have no choice but to grin and take it, while he stands aside like nothing ever happened.
Mu Jianli frowned, turning it over in her mind.
Uncle Master, maybe you are reading too deep. If that is true, then this man is a master of twisting fortune, playing both the righteous and demonic factions like pieces on a board.
9 out of 10, I'd stake on it.
Uncle Master Shi chuckled again, a tinge of something wistful in his tone.
That man is truly fascinating. With nothing more than a casual flick of his hand, he has lifted a simple courtesan into the most celebrated woman in the capital. That Miss Chen Chen carries herself so high now. She won't even see anyone who isn't a renowned master. Tell me, a man labors bitterly for 20 years, and in the end, he is put on the same footing as a prostitute. How does that sit? Even I can't get an audience with her now.
Uncle Master Shi rambled on, his words edged with a faint, grudging envy toward that Miss Chen Chen. As Mu Jianli listened, her steps came to an abrupt stop. It hit her then, the battle intent stirring inside her sword heart wasn't born solely from the joy of meeting a kindred swordsman. There was another reason, and it wasn't joy. It was a warning.
What if there existed someone who could corrupt the hearts of every swordsman under heaven? Someone who could snuff out all reverence for the martial path? That would be the greatest fiend imaginable. The enemy of all creation. Was she being overly sensitive? A man utterly devoid of cultivation, pulling a few tricks to promote his own woman. How had her thoughts drifted this far? Was she simply worn down from her recent training?
Mu Jianli shook her head, stepped into her room, settled her mind, closed her eyes, and sat in meditation, steeling herself for the battle against the ecstasy sect that night. Deep in the underground chamber of Hundred Blossoms Pavilion, Shea Mu sat cross-legged. Xi Qingqiu knelt behind him, one palm pressed flat against his back. Without wasting a single breath, he threw himself into cultivating poison arts under her guidance. Xia Qingqiu's voice echoed in his ears.
Ordinary cultivators progress through 4 great stages. The first is body tempering, the second is qi refining, the third is entwined soul, and the fourth is inquiry of Tao. Within these are countless minor realms. The entwined soul stage, for example, is divided into 4: illuminating heart, nourishing soul, spirit return, and transformation nurture. Xiao Qian has already blundered her way into transformation nurture. The inquiry of Tao stage. First comes Tao entering, then void comprehension. And the peak is union with Tao, a realm no one has reached in over 500 years. Right now, those at void comprehension number only a few over 10, and those at Tao entering number fewer than 100. All of them are hegemons of their domains, leading figures of their sex. As for people you know, Shahodi has been stuck at the peak of transformation nurture for 2 years. She is spread too thin and will likely never touch inquiry of Tao in this life. That girl Nisha cultivates in a bizarre way that defies normal classification. I'll explain her another time. Normally, you'd start with body tempering to forge your physical foundation, then step into chi refining. Since you are walking the poison path, your body tempering is different. Your body can't be polished into jade like others. You have to take the root of the 10,000 poisons body. For you, body tempering and chi refining are one and the same, so you can begin directly with chi refining. In a way, that is a shortcut. You know nothing of meridians and acupoints, and laying down that knowledge systematically would take too long. I'll pour my true chi into your body and guide its flow, forcing your acupoints open one by one. Still your mind in focus. Watch the path it takes. That is the circulation route of the 100 herbs poison art. Once you've memorized it, try running a full cycle on your own, and shape a spiritual vortex. If the vortex takes hold, it will pull in spiritual energy from the outside to nourish and fortify your true chi. Internally, it will absorb toxins and fuse them into your chi. But right now, you probably can't even sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. So just concentrate on drawing in toxins.
A strand of pure, refined true chi poured into his dantian, poked its head out, and scurried into a meridian with the timid, darting movements of a small mouse. This was true chi from a void comprehension realm expert, laced with a whisper of the Tao. It carried far more than simple sustenance. As it began to circulate, Xiaomu felt his consciousness shudder, as though his body had unfurled into its own universe. His spiritual sea opened like a night sky, vast and encompassing. His dantian gleamed like a solitary bright moon, silently illuminating the world. His acupoints flickered like scattered stars, faint and elusive. This was the starlight moon sex discipline of embodying the cosmos within oneself. To him, it was a heaven-sent boon. Every change within his body, every subtle shift along that strand of true chi's journey, revealed itself to him in exquisite clarity. He watched as his blocked meridians were pierced through by that strand with an irresistible force, as if a gray circuit diagram was being burned into place with sky-blue light. At the same time, countless impurities, black, green, brown, were swept up and spiraled together into an ugly, nameless color. These were the toxins buried in his skin, flesh, meridians, acupoints, blood, and bones. An ordinary cultivator would use true chi to purge them, but poison cultivators absorb and merge with them. For someone like Xiaomu, whose body was so deeply entwined with toxins that they were nearly fused to his very foundation, expelling them outright would likely cripple him. Xia Qingqiu had no choice but to guide him into merging with them. Poison cultivation was his only path. Slowly, as more and more toxins were absorbed, that nameless, ugly color settled into a murky green. The murky green chi pushed forward, meeting resistance at certain nodes. Those were the acupoints. The murky green chi tapped against each node, and with barely any resistance, crackled through and spilled in, flooding them with that dark, sickly hue. Xia Qingqiu's mastery over true chi and its sheer power acted like a cheat code for him. For anyone else, forcing open an acupoint meant raw, grinding agony. He didn't feel so much as a twinge. Instead, it felt deeply soothing, almost like a massage. A dark green circuit map burned across his body, glimmering like a constellation wheeling through the heavens. The true chi cycled again and again, then returned to his dantian. Xia Qingqiu's voice came again, soft and steady.
I bestow this strand of true chi to you. Try to seize control of it. Follow the route.
The instant those words fell, Xiaomu felt command of that strand snap into his grasp. Tracing the path from memory, he guided it himself through 36 greater celestial cycles. It returned to his dantian and gradually condensed into a small, spinning vortex. Xia Qingqiu's lips curved into a faint smile.
Your talent is decent.
It sounded like a passing grade. Xiaomu, of course, dared not compare his talent to the strongest being in this world. He was already quite pleased to have formed a vortex so quickly. As he awaited Qingqiu's next instruction, she suddenly let out a soft and a strange change erupted inside him. From nowhere, a vast energy seemed to sense the vortex's existence. It rushed over euphorically and joyfully leaped inside. This energy was pure, immense, and utterly pristine. With just a sliver of it mixed in, the vortex began spinning madly, doubling in size with each revolution. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded over a dozen times, becoming like a raging whirlpool in a stormy sea. Xia Qingqiu was astonished and uncertain.
Where did this spiritual energy come from? It seems it has always been inside you.
That didn't sound like a bad thing. Xia Mu breathed a sigh of relief. He suddenly knew where this spiritual energy originated.
If not from that pattern, then from what? It was said that the spiritual energy leaking from the world, suppressing cauldron had once turned that pool of water into a sacred pool. He had absorbed a fragment of the cauldron alive. This spiritual energy might last him a lifetime.
No matter where it came from, with me here, this is a tremendous stroke of luck.
Xia Qingqiu sent in more true qi, speaking rapidly.
Let go of everything and absorb with all your might. I'll protect your meridians and ensure they stay intact.
Xia Mu understood. Without Xia Qingqiu here, he would likely perish. The surge of vast spiritual energy was overwhelming. His pitifully fragile meridians could never endure such a tsunami-like impact. Without her protection, the only outcome would be his meridians shattering into pieces, a miserable end. With Xia Qingqiu safeguarding him, what had been an ill turn instantly transformed into a blessing. Xia Mu wasted no words, directly cycling his qi vortex. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth grew more jubilant, almost cheering as it surged into him and merged into one. Torrents of true qi burgeoned, crashing violently into his meridians and acupoints. Yet a faint, serene light enfolded him softly and peacefully. Though his meridians were no wider than a brook, the raging flood rushed through them without breaking them. Instead, they slowly expanded under the force of this torrent, gradually turning into a river. After an indeterminate span of time, Xia Mu focused inward and found the qi vortex in his dantian had vanished. In its place drifted an immense, dark green nebula, billowing within his dantian to form a qi sea. The spiritual energy of the world still flowed into the qi sea, but no longer rampaged. It blended silently, nourishing him like a gentle rain. The poison within his body circulated with his true qi, entered the qi sea, and fused together, forming a new hybrid of poison and true qi. This spread out anew, poured into the river, and the river returned to the sea, completing a perfect cycle. Xia Qingqiu's palm finally left his back. She chuckled softly.
What a curious stroke of fortune, leaping directly into the qi sea stage, skipping 2 entire realms in the future. After long cultivation, when your qi sea condenses into a core, your qi refinement will reach perfection. Then you can consider tempering your soul force and bridging the conduit between heaven and earth. Perhaps your cultivation will outpace anyone's.
Xia Mu opened his eyes and exhaled lightly.
No, that wasn't fortune. You are my fortune.
Xia Qingqiu laughed in spite of herself.
You still have the mood to tease me.
Just the truth.
Xia Mu slowly rose. Though he had sat cross-legged for who knew how long, he felt no numbness, only a pure, invigorated ease that permeated his entire body. He turned to face Xunqiu's flawless beauty, bowed deeply from the waist, and said with utter sincerity,
Thank you.
Xia Qingqiu rose calmly.
Why stand on ceremony? That was merely a lift of my hand. But I find this sudden surge of your spiritual energy somewhat puzzling. Are you certain there's nothing amiss within you?
Xia Mu examined his interior carefully, and then grinned.
If I had to find something wrong, there is one thing.
What's that?
This GC is green.
For a moment, Xia Qingqiu was stunned, not finding anything wrong with green.
So what? The fusion of potent poisons is usually this color.
Nothing much, of course. I choose to forgive it, as long as my hat isn't this color.
Xia Mu clenched his fists and stretched his arms, savoring the surging power inside him. His physical body still felt unchanged. That was because it hadn't yet been tempered. He knew that if he threw a punch now, the raging fusion of true qi and poison inside him would explode forth, easily splitting stone and shattering monuments. More than that, he sensed with clarity that his mind had grown sharper, his hearing keener, his vision clearer. Even a cobweb strand on the wall stood out with crystalline precision. The soft rustle of bamboo leaves outside sounded like heavenly music. No wonder so many people became addicted to power and could not extricate themselves. This sense of mastery over the world, this perception of its very fabric, was something a modern person could never experience. It was deeply intoxicating, and these were only the most rudimentary applications of power. If he cultivated according to the 100 Herbs poison art, his toxic qi could manifest in countless attack patterns. Merely based on combinatorial data, it could produce an inexhaustible array of effects. far beyond simple energy bombardment. He was now like a newly minted millionaire who had come into a fortune of tens of millions, yet had not the slightest idea how to spend it. If someone threw a punch at him, he still would not know how to counter. Learning to spend money was a profound discipline in itself, one deep enough to immerse himself in for a lifetime. In any case, at least now, no one could kill him with a single glare, and for certain activities, he wouldn't need to have the girl take medicine first. That was the crux of the matter.
Generally speaking, poison cultivation is an art of strong offense and weak defense. It never quite fit your role, since we never needed you to go out and kill. But I trust that with your intelligence, you'll find a way that suits you. Should any confusion arise, come and discuss it with me.
Xia Qingchu's tone was earnest and instructive.
Refining poison arts can rely heavily on external aids, but real combat must be built from the ground up. Both martial techniques and the subtleties of applying poison are vast systems. This won't be accomplished overnight. No external object can help you. It depends entirely on your own effort. The best our sect can provide is to find people to assist your training, to capture subjects for you to test poisons. Mere conveniences like that.
I'll do my utmost.
The two walked slowly out of the quiet chamber. Outside, the sun had long since set in the west, casting a rosy afterglow across the horizon. This session of cultivation had taken a full 3 hours, yet to Xia Mu, it had felt like an instant. Both raised their heads to look at the sky, and at the same time they fell silent. After a while, they spoke simultaneously again.
Actually,
They exchanged a glance, and both broke into laughter. Xia Qingqiu smiled.
You first.
to be honest, I only train to protect myself. I have no ambition to reach any great height or pursue some profound truth. I have many ideas I want to implement. Perhaps I truly won't have much time for cultivation. I might disappoint you, sister.
Xia Qingqiu nodded, sighing ruefully.
That's also what I was going to say. I'm torn. I had originally intended to give you all manner of our sect's archives, so you could devote more effort. Yet at the same time, I deeply hope you'll ascend the martial path. I know a person's energy is finite, and it's nearly impossible to have both. But I'm always too greedy.
Xia Ma could not help asking.
Why do you hope I'll climb the martial path?
Xia Qingqiu was startled. She turned her head away and did not answer. Xia Mu seemed to understand part of her meaning. He pursed his lips and also remained silent. Anyone would wish for a companion who shared their interests and passions, someone to walk alongside them toward the same goal. Only, Xia Qingqiu could never say those words aloud. He was not yet that companion. The two lifted their gazes to the lingering sunset clouds once more. A long while later, Xia Qingqiu murmured,
I wonder where Channer is now.
That was one of the greatest knots in their hearts at this moment. Just as Xia Mu was about to reply, an intensely fierce sword or a shot skyward in the distance, its dazzling radiance so bright it hurt the eyes. Both were instantly diverted. Xia Qingqiu narrowed her eyes and watched for a while, then said coolly,
What a magnificent soaring firmament sword intent. Judging by this cultivation, it must be Mu Jianli. Wenjian Zong is fortunate. With this girl, they can extend their might for at least another century.
Xia Mu replied.
Xiaochan is no lesser than her. If his Wenjian Zong has a century of might, our Starlight Moon sect will endure for 1,000 autumns, 10,000 ages.
Insincere.
Xia Qingqiu shot him a sidelong glance.
What you really meant is that the Starlight Moon sect will only endure for 1,000 ages because it has you.
Xia Mu laughed.
I really didn't mean that. It was just a casual bit of flattery. Don't tell me that's what sister was thinking.
Xia Qingqiu did not look at him. She gazed into the distance where sword intent pierced the heavens and said unhurriedly,
With you in the Starlight Moon sect, I cannot say whether it will prosper for 1,000 autumns or be destroyed in a single day.
Xi Mu's answer came without hesitation.
I can't promise the first, but I can guarantee it won't be the second.
Xi Qingqiu's lips curved, just barely.
I hope so.
Movement stirred ahead. A little girl burst toward them, her gang trailing behind.
Senior sister, Miu Miu. You're finally out of seclusion.
Mu Shi. Mu almost laughed at the absurdity. Beside him, Xi Qingqiu's gaze settled on Nisha's small face, utterly expressionless. Nisha flinched, her little mouth pursed, on the verge of tears that never actually came. Xi Qingqiu clearly had no idea what to do with this junior sister. In truth, she didn't know what anyone should call Shima either. Fine. Let Mumu be mama. She composed herself and clasped her hands behind her back.
What's happening over there?
Zhuo Qingqing stepped forward.
The 8 Orthodox sects came to the pleasure-seeking pavilion and ordered them to withdraw the uniforms. The first prince was there to mediate. He cornered Mo Shuexian and the others with words until they agreed to settle it with a contest between disciples.
Shi Qingchu looked toward the horizon. The sword intent had already faded. A trace of mockery crept into her voice.
I imagine the outcome is already decided. The Hextasy sect is utterly shameless. They called it a disciple contest but set up a formation for others to break.
Zhuo Qingqing's eyes flickered with something close to admiration.
As if anyone doesn't know the difference in difficulty between defending a formation and breaking one. In the end, Mu Jianli walked in alone, shattered their 12 bliss formation with a single sword, and left without a word, indifferent. Didn't even look back.
Shi Mu clicked his tongue.
How to put it? This was the moment. No, it was her meeting Mu Jianli in person that finally gave this world a true wuxia flavor. A life poured into nothing but the sword, nothing else. It was wuxia to the bone. Sentiment through and through. Her combat strength probably couldn't be measured by the mid-stage of Huayun. She was the heroine type. The kind who could casually punch above her realm. But the Jiangu was one thing, society was another. Mu Jianli's performance would only earn her resentment from half the orthodox path. A meritorious official. Did that carry any weight anymore? Unless she came from a super sect, a girl like her would struggle to carve out a name. You had to learn how to be a person first. But then again, without that single-minded obsession, she'd never have reached this height. What a contradiction. Still, Xie Mu found himself appreciating her wuxia sentiment, which Chinese youth hadn't dreamed of. That Jiangu, that sword.
Aura rushed in from outside just then. She saluted.
Sect leader, young master, Mu Jianli requests an audience.
The entire Starlight Moon sect froze. She had left so indifferently. Now she was here.
What is she doing? Isn't she afraid she won't make it back? She had a death wish. She knew perfectly well their sect leader was present. Was she not afraid they'd just kill her and snuff out a promising seedling of the orthodox path? Did she think a demonic sect would play by some chivalric code? Was there a scheme behind this?
Shemu's conspiracy theories flared to life. He couldn't help asking.
What were her exact words?
Aura answered.
Her words were, a humble student of the Sword Inquiry sect Mu Jianli on a 10,000-mile sword pilgrimage has cultivated to this point. In the hope that the sect leader cherishes the hardship of seeking the way, I humbly beg permission to view the star soul cloud mist.
Shi Mu stared, dumbfounded.
What kind of nonsense was this?
A sword pilgrimage, right to our doorstep.
Shi Qingchu's expression turned deeply strange. She paused for a long moment.
Invite her to the main hall. No, bring her to the bamboo lodge out back.
Choosing the sect's private residence over a spot in the 100 Blossoms Pavilion was a gesture of respect. The 100 Blossoms Pavilion was a place of worldly pleasures. Shi Qingchu believed a swordswoman like this deserved something more dignified. It was an appreciation for a junior. An acknowledgement of a kindred spirit. Mu Jianli understood this. Every step of the way, she ignored the bamboo grove's formation arrays, keeping her eyes fixed straight ahead as Aura led her into the bamboo lodge. Shi Qingchu sat in the host's seat, Shi Mu to her left, Nisha to her right, the 3 highest-ranking members of the Starlight Moon sect in this place. Possibly the entire sect sat together waiting. Mu Jianli was taken aback. This reception was far grander than she had imagined. She did not consider herself on the same level as her own master. In reality, Xie Mu was simply curious about this sword pilgrimage and had insisted on watching. Nisha stared with her bright, glittering eyes, utterly fascinated by the swordswoman. Burdened with these unreliable companions, Shi Qingchu, as the head of the household, could only grit her teeth and bear it. Mu Jianli's gaze fell on Shi Mu. This time her sword heart did not stir, yet she was even more astonished. When they had brushed past each other that morning, he hadn't possessed a trace of cultivation. Now meeting again at dusk, his qi had already achieved grand completion. She quickly realized that with Shi Qingchu's unmatched mastery, raising someone's cultivation was hardly difficult, nothing more than forced growth. She didn't dwell on it. What truly surprised her was that Shi Mu sat on the left. Left before right was the established custom. Xie Mu's status was actually higher than Nisha's, who was Neche, Shi Qingchu's sole junior sister. the matrix soul of the Starlight Moon sect, a figure of renown. Just last month, Shenyi Daozhang, a Dao entering expert of the Profound Heaven sect, was hunting the demonic sect's rising star Feng Liang when this seemingly 5-year-old girl intercepted him. No one could comprehend what happened in their exchange. They only knew that Shenyi Daozhang was slapped to death by the little girl with a casual swat. The southern righteous sects mobilized in full force to hunt down the demoness. In the end, they didn't even catch a single hair. Even Feng Liang, whom they'd been chasing before, slipped right through their fingers. Furious and humiliated, they could only vent their rage by destroying a few brothels the Starlight Moon sect had exposed, while helping Nisha and Feng Liang escape. What followed was pure farce. The courtesans, led by a madam named Jianli, went everywhere, wailing, weeping, threatening suicide at government offices, rolling and shrieking right outside the gates of the Profound Heaven sect. The righteous sects lost face completely. Word of this spread across all lands. It shook the world. Nisha, once utterly unknown, became famous overnight. Everyone spoke of this young girl with her bizarre cultivation, her realm impossible to discern, yet able to slay a Dao entering cultivator in a single strike. Some said she might already be approaching the Dongshu level. Perhaps she was already there, a power equivalent to Dongshu, yet within the Starlight Moon sect, she stood contentedly beneath Shi Mu, and she did so with a cheerful grin, not a trace of resentment. What did that imply? Outsiders, of course, couldn't possibly guess the real reason. Nisha was an absolute lazy bum, utterly incapable of fighting anyone for position. Even if she did compete, it would only be because the other position was prettier. But ignorant onlookers would assume this man was a heaven-defying anomaly. Whatever. The internal affairs of the Starlight Moon sect were none of their business. Mu Jianli used the act of saluting to settle her thoughts.
Junior Mu Jianli greets sect leader Shi.
Shi Qingqiu gazed at her silently for a moment, her voice distant.
10 years ago, your master also sought to pay respects to my sword. I refused.
Yes, my master once mentioned this to me. He never forgot it.
Mu Jianli stood straight, her reply calm.
So on this journey I come first to seek my own Dao, and second, to remedy my master's remaining regret.
Shi Qingqiu's lips curved into an ambiguous smile.
Aren't you afraid I'll simply kill you? Cut off the sword inquiry sect's future entirely?
Mu Jianli answered flatly.
The sword inquiry sect's talents are as countless as grains of sand. Losing one Mu Jianli can hardly be called cutting off our future. Moreover, sect leader Shi is a grand master of this age, surely possessing the magnanimity not to make things difficult for a junior.
Shi Qingqiu laughed, amusement flickering in her eyes.
You are the 48th generation of the sword inquiry sect. I am the 50th generation of the Starlight Moon sect. By that reckoning, I should call you Grand Marshal Aunt. Who's the junior here?
Mu Jianli was stunned.
Between different sects, who counted generations like that, their founding times weren't even the same. By that logic, the Yanyang sect only had 3 generations so far, and its founding patriarch was still alive. Would that make him the ancestor of everyone else?
But she was no sharp-tongued debater. She simply fell silent. Shi Qingqiu drawled lazily.
Do you know why I refused your master's sword pilgrimage back then?
Mu Jianli said.
I do not.
Shi Qingqiu leaned back in her chair, utterly relaxed.
He'd already finished his sword pilgrimage long ago, yet he suddenly showed up to pay respects to my sword? In truth, it wasn't the sword he was bowing to. It was the lady. I merely hinted delicately that he was 3 generations my senior, over a decade older, and not exactly handsome. Did he have no shame, trying to take a bite of such tender grass? After that, he lost all interest in bowing to the sword. I heard his breakthrough to Dongshu was delayed by 5 years because of it, and he nearly lost his position as sect leader. I truly never meant to obstruct his sword Dao.
Shi Mu burst out laughing. The implication was obvious. She'd done it entirely on purpose. She'd baited the hook, left him stunned and broken-hearted, and used the whole affair to shake his Dao heart and eliminate a powerful rival. There was no doubt about it. Mu Jian, Li stood frozen, her master's lofty image crumbling before her eyes. The solemn atmosphere of seeking the Dao had shattered completely.
What was the point of this sword pilgrimage now?
And yet, at precisely this moment, Shi Qingqiu offered the sword.
Well then, since the descendant of an old acquaintance has come sincerely seeking the Dao, let no one say I'm miserly enough to deny the world's sincere pursuit of truth.
With a flick of her slender hand, a streak of starlight shot out from who knew where and halted steadily before Mu Jianli, revealing its true form. It was a strange sword, its blade wildly irregular, as if cobbled together from countless tiny stones. Yet, strangely, it felt perfectly whole. Each stone pulsed with faint, dormant power, weaving into hazy wisps that drifted off the blade, like clouds veiling the face of a starry sky. One of the 3 guardian divine artifacts of the Starlight Moon sect, Star Soul Cloud Mist. For the first time, a tremor of awe cracked Mujane, Li's ever-calm, lovely face. When Jingjiang disciples roamed the world to pay homage to famed swords, they sought to commune with a sword's heart, sense its intent, and find resonance with their own Tao, pursuing enlightenment. This demanded a reverent, pure sword-heart resonance. A mere glance or casual bow wouldn't suffice. So they undertook bitter pilgrimages, undistracted and wholly devoted to the sword's question. But what Yue Sha Chan had said earlier, that you could just pay respects in a weapon shop, was obviously a joke. What truly merited homage were renowned, swords steeped in noble blood, honed through 1,000 battles, saturated with the lingering sword intent of past masters, faintly alive with spirit. Only by communing with such a blade could one possibly gain anything. Ordinarily, righteous sects would give Wenjian Zong face and lend their swords for such enlightenment. You might not grasp anything profound anyway, so it was an easy favor. But famed swords didn't belong only to the righteous path. More than half lay in the hands of enemies. So in truth, there was another form of sword pilgrimage, not questioning, but combat, challenging masters of the sword across the land, experiencing their sword intent through real battle. That was the true essence of the 10,000-mile sword pilgrimage. Combat took different forms, life or death duels or guided sparring. Mujane, Li's original goal in coming to Sheiqing, Chu was simply to request a move or 2 of instruction, so she might glimpse the essence of Star Soul Cloud Mist. That would have satisfied her pilgrimage. She'd assumed that Sheiqing Chu, a heroic hegemon, would be magnanimous enough toward a junior to grant this favor, though the danger was immense and her chances of returning home slim. But the sword heart knows no retreat. She'd come without a second thought. What she had never imagined was that Sheiqing Chu's magnanimity far exceeded her expectations. Not only did she not intend to keep her here, she actually tossed the sword over and let her examine it to her heart's content. She had merely first unsettled her sword heart with words, a kind of trial, nothing more. She could appreciate Sheiqing Chu's intention. The obstacle had been set, and overcoming it was her own ability. It was also a fair account to her disciples, not to mention avoiding any accusation of aiding the enemy. Such magnanimity truly befitted a grand master of her generation. Was this why she could sweep the world at such a tender age? In that case, how could she fail to live up to the Grand Master's goodwill? Jianli closed her eyes and remained silent for 10 breaths. When she opened them again, her gaze was once more filled with stern, emotionless sword intent. The momentary lapse had scattered on the wind, leaving no trace. Under the curious eyes of the 3 from the Starlight Moon sect, Mujane, Li sincerely bowed to the Star Soul Cloud Mist before her, then placed one hand on her sword hilt and formed a sword gesture with the other, holding it upright before her. Mu couldn't discern how she communed with the sword, but after a moment, the divine sword flared with brilliant light, its blade trembling. Strangely, Mu felt a surge of joy from the sword, as though it had found a kindred spirit. The radiance receded. Mujane, Li released the hilt, stepped back, and bowed deeply.
Thank you, Senior, for bestowing the sword.
Admiration filled Sheiqing Chu's eyes.
Sword heart resonance, that is your own talent. There's no need to thank me, but I'll say this plainly. A talent like you coming from an enemy sect is a great threat. When we meet again at Fenghu, I will not hold back.
Mujane, Li answered solemnly.
This junior will do the same.
She turned and walked away, her straight, graceful figure like a drawn sword. As for Mu, who'd once piqued her curiosity, she didn't spare him a single glance. Nisha watched her silhouette vanish and muttered.
She didn't have any scent at all at first, but just now a faint floral fragrance appeared. They say she's like a sword making friends with a sword, but after all, she's still human.
Having no scent meant she held neither goodwill nor malice. She came solely for the inquiry of the sword, with no other thoughts. The emergence of a floral scent showed that although she said, "This junior will do the same," she had actually taken to heart Sheiqing Chu's guidance in the sword and harbored goodwill. Humans are, after all, humans. They have emotions and desires, joys and sorrows. No matter how they train, they cannot turn into a sword. Mu glanced at Nisha. This girl, who had cultivated herself to be childlike both inside and out, was clear and pure like a mirror reflecting the human heart. But that didn't mean she had a child's insight. In truth, she was a 24-year, old Tao seeker who walked her own unwavering path. The words still human carried a very clear implication that the path of the Wen Jianzong was nothing but vanity. It was an unmistakable divergence of Dao, and when such words came from Nisha's childlike appearance, it felt especially eerie. Shemu couldn't help asking,
What did she comprehend from the sword?
Just some sort of sword intent, and whether it truly suits her remains to be seen. A divine sword is but an external object. Inquiring of the sword is not as good as inquiring of oneself. What she comprehended has nothing to do with us. I have zero interest.
Shay Ching, Chu replied indifferently. Nisha nodded beside her, her small head bobbing like a chick pecking at grain. Shay Mu sighed. The myriad schools truly were as divergent as north and south. He suddenly felt that even if these people argued for another 1,000 years, they would get nowhere.
Why bother arguing? They were all adorable girls. The most important thing was to be happy.
Just as he was thinking that, Shay Ching, Chu shot him a sideways glance.
What? Do you think she's right?
Only an idiot would agree at a moment like this. Shay Mu smiled.
You admire her purity, and naturally I do too. But I know one thing the Wen Jianzong is absolutely wrong about.
Oh, what's that?
Shay Mu said leisurely.
A beauty like Mu Jianli should be wearing a silken dudo and exquisite jewelry that complements her charms, smiling softly upon a bed. Now that would be a magnificent sight in this world. How can you let rough, cheap fabrics chafe her delicate skin, or let those damn straw sandals blister her little feet, forcing her into asceticism? It's an outright desecration of natural splendor. Damn it all. This Wen Jianzong is the real demonic path, don't you think?
Shay Ching Chu,
Nisha.
Shay Ching Chu stood up expressionless.
Lock this lewd bastard in the secret chamber. No food for him today.
Nisha was still dumbstruck and hadn't moved when Shay Mu laughed.
My dear sister, you seem to have forgotten Xiahou Di is hosting dinner, and we're already quite late.
Shay Ching Chu glared at him fiercely.
I've figured out the business tricks between you and Xiahou Di. Don't think I can't manage without you.
Shay Mu sighed.
Don't take this the wrong way, sister. This is a brand new operation that even I am still figuring out. What can you and Xiahou Di do if you're just staring at each other helplessly?
Shay Ching Chu stared at him expressionlessly for a long time without saying anything. Then she turned to Nisha and said,
Strengthen the defensive arrays around Shemu's residence. Use all available resources to set up the highest security level. More and more people will come to know Shemu's importance. There must be no mistakes. Oh.
Nisha agreed dazedly. Only then did Shay Ching Chu glare at Shay Mu and say,
Let's go.
From Julo to the 100 Blossoms Pavilion, guests flooded in like a rising tide. The pavilion's grounds couldn't contain them, and the staff was stretched thin. Jaiwu Ching, and Aura, who normally kept behind the scenes, were out front now, directing the chaotic flow, sweat pouring down their faces.